Well, most Americans had never heard of Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez until he stood up at the United Nations and called President Bush the devil. Now everyone knows his name, but as Dale Hurd reports, few Americans have any idea of what he's up to.
Hugo Chavez has been casting George Bush as the devil for years. At pro-Chavez rallies in Caracas, Bush is arch-villain. Chavez is the savior. This man is said to actually believe he is the reincarnation of the Latin American liberator Simón Bolivar.
Hugo Chavez says a lot of things, so if you want to know about Hugo Chavez, it's important to watch not what he says, but what he does. And what Hugo Chavez has been doing has Washington alarmed.
Chavez spent his summer visiting some of the world's worst dictatorships and anti-American regimes, including Iran, Syria, and Belarus. He honored Iranian President Ahmadinejad, who denies the Holocaust and has called for the destruction of Israel. In Moscow, Chavez signed a $3 billion arms deal with Russia for assault rifles, fighter jets, and attack helicopters. This month, Colombia's former defense minister and new representative to the Organization of American States, Camilo Ospina, said Venezuela is secretly mining uranium at 2 locations. The Colombian government immediately disavowed his comments. But CBN News has received several unverified reports from sources that Hugo Chavez is prospecting or mining uranium with the help of Iran. We also know that Chavez saw fit to put a convicted terrorist, Carlos Lanz, in charge of the Venezuelan state aluminum monopoly, Alcasa, which some suspect is also a front for uranium mining.
There's a contract between Iran and Venezuela for the export of aluminum. However, my engineering sources tell me that there's enough aluminum in Iran to last for the next 60 years, and the contract is believed to be a front for the smuggling of other commodities or items, most probably uranium.
Kenneth Rizak is a former money launderer from Miami who is now a financial crime consultant.
What I did for 10 years is I moved cash for organized crime.
Rizak has been scrutinizing the dealings of the Chavez government, and he's found some strange things.
One of the things I do as a financial crime consultant is that I look at statistics. One of Venezuela's strangest and most frightening statistics is the fact that there are 2,002 people living in Venezuela, most of them on the border with Colombia, all born on March 15, 1974, all whose last name is Gonzalez, and all who have consecutive national identity numbers. Now, without the connivance of the government, there'd be no way that this fraud could be perpetrated on the system.
Who are these persons given false identities? Chavez is known to aid and harbor the Colombian terrorist FARC and ELN groups, and has made Venezuela a haven for Arab and Islamic terrorists. General Marco Ferreira, the former head of Venezuela's passport and ID card agency, told us he was ordered to provide false IDs to named members and associates of foreign terrorist groups, and he showed us the documents to prove it.
The weakness of our national identification system means that many people from the Middle East enter Venezuela and they're issued papers that say they're Venezuelan.
Pereira finally quit after repeatedly being pressured by the Venezuelan government to issue illegal documents.
When your show airs, the Venezuelan government will say it's a lie, but they cannot say it's a lie because of all the evidence.
Fugitive Venezuelan General Nestor González, who is hiding inside Venezuela, gave to CBN News this map of alleged terrorist and narco-trafficking camps all over Venezuela, shown in the shaded areas. And in this video interview smuggled out of Venezuela, the former military instructor of Hugo Chavez warns that the failure of the U.S. to see Chavez as a real threat is reminiscent of how Europe tried to ignore the rise of Hitler in the 1930s. Hugo Chavez's next project is to win one of the rotating seats on the UN Security Council, which would allow him to take his war against America to a new level. And some say he's using oil to divide American opposition to his regime by giving away free or low-cost fuel to poor Americans. But oil could also be his undoing. One Venezuelan oil analyst said the Chavez regime can't survive if oil prices stay below $60 a barrel. Chavez has been using oil to pay off friends and spread his so-called Bolivarian revolution throughout Latin America. Venezuelan opposition figure Patricia Andrade has had to endure death threats, phone taps, and computer hacking by Chavez agents in South Florida. She says the U.S., in ignoring Chavez, is asleep.
They are blind. they don't know the risk about Hugo Chavez. The United States needs to open the eyes about the highest risk that is Hugo Chavez. Hugo Chavez won't stop until he destroys the United States.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, I hope your eyes are getting open to the threat from Venezuela. And on the face of it, to say Venezuela is somehow a threat to the United States seems downright ludicrous. But when you start looking back into Hugo Chavez's life, it is chilling. And he wrote a letter of congratulations to a terrorist who was famous back in the 1970s. Wrote him a letter when he was in a prison in France. He's still in a prison in France. The guy's called the Jackal. And he killed 3 OPEC ministers in Vienna back in the 1970s. And Hugo Chavez wrote him a letter and said, "You are my hero." Now, the Jackal was Venezuelan, and that was his citizenship. And he called him a fellow revolutionary and congratulated him on what he had done to destabilize the world's economy. And that's what the goal is here. There seems to be an incredible revolutionary spirit within the man, and he's friends with Cuba, he's friends with Iran, he's friends with the enemies of the United States, and we need to wake up to the threat. Terry?
Well, when it comes